Okay, let's get this party started. Hey, light up the chat. Here we go. Let me pull up my slides. How is everybody? I'm so excited that everybody is pumped for the new year. And we're just going to get some new tools in our toolkit for being able to support our bodies and our nervous systems in the new year. And that's why I'm here. I am pumped and excited to be able to teach you and help you to understand herbal medicine better, maybe help you to feel a little more comfortable using herbs. I would love to know in the chat where you're at on your journey into herbalism and what's bringing you here. Jen asked, will we have access to the presentation afterwards? For sure. So let's get right into it. This is Herbal Reboot, how herbal medicine can help you regain your clarity and healthcare autonomy in the new year. Let's start with who I am. I have a BS in biology and environmental studies minor. I graduated from 2 different herb schools, 1 aromatherapy school, so 3 schools total. I have 9 years of clinical experience. I've been doing this in total for 17 years. I have over 4,000 hours of study. And I'm the primary director and teacher for the Deep Root School of Foraging and Herbal Medicine and on the board of directors for the American Herbalist Guild. So I've been doing this a long time. Technically, I'm a clinical functional herbalist, and this is my life's work and my passion, and I'm super excited to share it with you. I'm guessing that a lot of you guys are here because healthcare is limping along. We are not doing so great with healthcare in the United States, and I know some of you might be from other countries. And I know a little bit less about what's going on over there in other parts of the world, but I do know that in the United States, healthcare costs are getting astronomical. They were not great before, but now they're even worse. When I went to sign up for my insurance, my premium was $200 more a month. That means access to care is shrinking for a lot of folks. And we're also seeing some pretty intense medication shortages. There are 270 active medication shortages in the US right now. And then we all know what's going on with insurance companies. Not only are our premiums going up, but they're constantly doing kind of weird stuff, like not covering what they said they'll cover or not covering a location when they cover a provider and the provider changes location and then they don't cover that, and not covering basic care, refusing or auto denying claims. And, we all are aware of this. I'm sure you guys have spent at least 12 to 15 hours on the phone with an insurance company this year because I have, and I very rarely use higher care. So, I think we all expect that healthcare providers and insurance companies will care for us. I think we're all in the boat where we realize that the systems we expect care from are falling short. And in reality, as of right now, no one is coming to fix it for us. This is kind of a large systemic institutional problem. And so, where does that leave us? I'm not very much for the doom and gloom. I'm very much for recognizing where we're at and then trying to make improvements, but also creating a plan for moving forward in a way that feels good and healthy. At this point, it's personal autonomy and the tagline of stop renting your healthcare. We really are trained and deeply conditioned to rely solely on expensive, inefficient care at this point, and in general, externalized systems for aches, pains, illnesses. I've seen this a lot in my clinical work. This particular case comes to mind, a person with interstitial cystitis. It's not uncommon to end up with interstitial cystitis with chronic recurrent UTIs that yo-yo between antifungals and antibacterial interventions. This particular client had gotten on that hamster wheel and standard care treatment had given her interstitial cystitis. And so we were getting great results with specific dietary interventions. And then she got a particularly bad UTI, didn't call me, went to a healthcare provider and lost all her gains. She disappeared and I didn't hear from her for a while. And then she surfaced back a little while later, like 6 months, and she was like, I'm really sorry. I just was like ashamed because I knew better than to go that route because it had hurt me before and I knew I needed to try something different. And so that's why I came to you. And then I went right back and did the same thing. I was like, "It's fine." We all grew up I don't know if you grew up taking herbal medicine, but I grew up in a standard medical model. We went to the doctor for everything. It's important to realize and recognize that we can take back a lot of our primary care, and we really should be primary care providers for ourselves. Primary means we are the first line of defense. We're responsible for ourselves, and it's okay to call ourselves primary care providers. The doctor and other care providers are secondary care. They're higher care than what we can provide. Maybe your herbalist in an ideal world would be a step above where you're at right now. And then you would go to the doctor. And that is not uncommon for lots of places in the world. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. I think we're all coming from a place where the past few years, especially with COVID, taught us that self reliance and preventative bottom up approaches to health are valid and important because it increases the stability of the complex system that we're inside of. And healthcare should be part of a healthy system that we should all be inside of, in which we have individual agency and family and community health advocacy, in addition to systems of higher care that are good and healthy and not discriminatory and not gaslighty. And of course, as a woman, I don't know if anybody wants to raise hand in the chat that if you've experienced medical gaslighting as a woman and not having your care or your issues taken seriously. I think even if we just focus on that and people of color being ignored and the birth outcomes for Black folks and people who, sorry, the chat is blowing up. I love you guys. Sorry, I got distracted. But anyway, I'm on my high horse. Now I'm going to move on. So it's important that we have a complex, adaptable system in which we have agency. Making your own medicine at home is super powerful, and it not only connects us to nature, it highlights the importance of nature and supports us in continuing to take care of the earth. We are animals and have similar metabolic processes, and it's important that we recognize that if we're poisoning the earth, we will be poisoning ourselves. It's really hard to convince in a capitalistic society to value things that are not monetarily valuable. If we can continue to push for herbal medicine being a primary and important part of our healthcare system and model, then everybody starts noticing we need to be protecting these plants that are our food and medicine. This entire thing is a paradigm shift from a purely top down system where we can all take charge of common ailments and our wellness to support the entire system, ourselves, our communities, our healthcare system, and our country. Herbal medicine is mainstream all over the world. Especially when I started 15 years ago, people would be like, "Oh, your herbal business? Oh, what you do for a living?" Or it's like, "Oh, those herbs only work because of the alcohol content." And now when I say I'm a professional herbalist, people don't scoff at me. I used to get a lot of interesting because of course I'm in the South. You know, in some cultures, herbal medicine is ingrained and deeply important to the culture, but in the community I'm part of, that was not the case. Anyway, 80% of populations worldwide use herbal medicines as primary health care. This is per the World Health Organization. 42 to 71% of American adults use herbal supplements. It's slated to be a $437 billion market by 2032. There were over 70,000 scientific research articles published on herbal medicine in the last 5 years. This is just great. I'm super pumped. I don't want to be a cuckoo nut that people think my job is interesting. I want us all to be taking care of ourselves and using herbs. I'm so excited that this is more mainstream now. So I'm here to just validate you're not an unscientific nut for being here. Herbal medicine is not a myth. It is not fringe. It is not frivolous. It is not marginalized. And it is not an unscientific practice. It is global. It is a growing movement in the United States and all over the world in cultures that had lost deep tradition to herbal medicine and links to herbal practices. We really need this paradigm shift to support our healthcare system as a whole to patch it up until we get something better. And if you're really feeling that pull, you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're in the right place. So I'm glad you're here. We are all part of the cultural shift towards this kind of comprehensive, inexpensive, localized, self-led care revolution. That's why I'm here. I'm here to teach you the skills that help you reduce how often you need higher care. I really want to give you the skills and the confidence and competence to take over your primary care and only need higher care when it's above your pay grade. I want you to have rooted autonomy. Rooted autonomy is this framework, and it's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing the land you live on, the plants that grow there, and what to do with them when it matters. And it's really made of three kind of pillars, the plants. So this is identification, properties, the actions, and your materia medica, your toolkit. And they have the potions. I say potions because it's a fun word. Potions are the stuff you make, your recipes, your extraction methods, your medicine making techniques. This is how you're making and extracting the plants. And this is how to do that well, because you can screw things up from the plant to the potion part. And then where it gets a little bit more complicated and requires a lot more nuance is the people and practice part of this. So this is dosage, timing, when to use what herbs, combining herbs and formulating, and also which types of applications to use in which types of situations with different people. So you might work with a person with same family, 4 different presentations of a cough or cold. That is the nuance, and really when you're starting to get into a professional level, herbalism is knowing the people and the practice side of and the nuance of herbal medicine. I'm guessing that right now you could feel happy for the new year, stressed because of healthcare costs, content, burnt out, tired. Despite being happy about the new year or excited about anything upcoming in your life, hypothetically, we're all a little burnt out and tired from the new year and from Christmas and Thanksgiving. Maybe we've overeaten. So I'm going to be having this contextual, we're going to be coming from a place of imagining and thinking that we're all inside of burnout. Because if you aren't burnt out now, maybe you have been burnt out in the past, and I think it's a 50-50 shot. You're still maybe kind of tired and over peopled or overfed from Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we're all looking forward to the new year for supporting ourselves and helping to move into a better, more grounded space. This afternoon, I'm going to teach you skills to listen and care for your bodies when you're in a state of depletion and exhaustion. If you're struggling with healthcare access or affordability, you might need to take on all or most of your primary care. And we're really going to begin with some quick and easy ways to help listen to our bodies and support our bodies, minds, and spirits throughout this. So, what we're going to learn today, why making your own medicine makes sense in 2026. I think it's important to know that you can't really vision your future if your immediate needs are not being met. If you do not have a sense of safety, herbal medicine, and healthcare access, but also recognizing that food is abundant and it grows all around us, are both ways to deeply root your nervous system and create a sense of security. When we perceive and believe that we have to wait around for care or support, or maybe we can't even access care in our minds and our bodies, right? Like, even the idea of, like, going to the doctor's like, "Well, that's gonna take forever," or, "I can't afford that, so I'm just not gonna go." Those do not contribute. Those ideas and those access problems do not contribute to deep senses of security and safety. And so I think that is some of why I came to herbalism in the first place, because we all need that deep knowing gives your nervous system the sense of safety that you need. I'll just talk about myself. In my past, I've had some pretty significant trauma, and I do a lot of internal family systems work. And I had a part that would come up that would say, like, you can't take care of yourself. Like, if there's a fight and you need to fight your way out, you don't know how to do that. And I'm calling your bluff. Like, we're not safe. You can't punch and scoot, like, you're not going to be okay. And so I had this part that was just like, take self-defense classes or we're never going to believe we're safe. And I believe that, like, there are so many things that we can try to fake our nervous system out about. And So, being able to defend yourself, being able to access food, and being able to access medicine on demand are like some of the best ways to get internalized safety for your brain to believe and internalize safety. So I've gone on a tangent, but I think that's important. Give me some love in the chat if that resonates with you. These are some tools for figuring out when we're in burnout or in a place of not feeling great. Maybe we're burnt out, maybe we're exhausted, maybe we're just too overwhelmed to even make a decision and figure out what we need. I have this tool called the full body yes. It's recognizing that our mind, body, and heart kind of have three different nervous systems, and we can get yes or no answers from all three. It's incredibly effective, whether you believe the underpinnings or not. I've seen it just play out time and time and again. It's really useful tool. And so I think whenever I've had a hard time making decisions, even if I don't want to decide what I want for dinner, I can do what does my brain want? Like, does my brain want comfort food? Yes or no? Does my heart want comfort food? Yes or no? Does my body want comfort food? Yes or no? And then I can make some decisions from that space, recognizing that our brain, heart, and our body are not always on the same page. We can accommodate all three and get to a place of consensus. Consensus building inside our own nervous system gives us a lot of accessibility to information. It's just a good information finding system. So I'm going to teach you guys about the full body. Yes, we're going to do it. And then I'm going to talk about herbal medicine and lifestyle for the body, herbal medicine and lifestyle for the mind, and herbal medicine and lifestyle for the heart. Then we're going to talk about shrinking the change and herbal ritual as a lifeline for health. We're not going to spend a lot of time on that. And then we're going to talk about how to continue and learn and grow in the path of herbalism. Let's talk. I'm going to take a little sip of tea. Y'all got your tea? Put in the chat what kind of tea you got. All right. My philosophy on the nervous system and the full body, yes or no. I don't think y'all knew you were going to get all this. Okay. Here's my philosophy on the nervous system. So, of course, everyone is always talking about the nervous system now and trauma and PTSD and complex trauma and EMDR and IFS and the super swimming. And I love that everyone is working with nervous system regulation skills. I think it's so important. In this instance, we're going to kind of zoom in and I just want to give you this brass tacks way of relating. And I think one of the things that's really important about trauma is that it takes away our autonomy, sometimes puts us in the back seat of our lives. Our nervous system is running us and we're not running our nervous system due to trauma. Any tool that puts us in the driver's seat of our own lives and gives us more internal loci of control is really helpful in reclaiming some of that nervous system regulation through deep autonomy. So, these are some of my most important tools with working with myself or clinically with clients. So, the full body yes or no. And then once I get a full body yes or no, I call it the dip your toe in. Give me some love in the chat if you have ever like been excited about something, but then there's a part of your nervous system that is like absolutely in dread, or you love something or you want something in one part of your body, but then another part of your body is like, oh, no thanks. That often for me is incongruency between the heart, the head, and the body. And then being able to zoom into that and find the part of you that, if you're like, this is actually really good for me. What's my resistance? And finding which part of your body is resistance and then dipping your toe in with thought exercises can really help to decrease that kind of dread and that sort of knee-jerk reaction of new is bad. And then doing 4-7-8 breathing, which if you're not familiar with, it's just a breathing pattern of breathing in 4 seconds, holding 7 seconds, releasing 8 seconds as you sit with the nervous system discomfort. And then we'll talk about herbs. So I just want to highlight the reason that we're having this conversation. You can't know what herbs you want to take if you can't decide what you need. Like, it does not. Especially since a lot of us probably grew up in sort of culture or situations where knowing what you need or being able to get what you need or asking for what you need was not valued or listened to. And so we often shut that off. We're also not in deep connection with nature. Some of that disconnection also stems from a lack of stillness and a consistent listening. So don't worry, I'm going to explain a full body yes. Y'all just, it'll be fine. I'm going to explain it. So, you can move through these three tools to consciously manage your wants, desires, and needs physically while parsing out where they get stuck, where there's a holdup. Ask yourself a full body yes. So, a full body yes is, how is my body feeling? How is my mind feeling? How is my heart feeling about whatever situation? So, how about we just try water? What you do is you cognitively think about what your brain wants. If everyone will just sit with me now and think about, okay, just close your eyes and imagine this is your brain we're trying to listen to. So it's going to be a lot easier for most people to tap into, like, cerebrally. My brain is like, yeah, I need water right now. But then the harder part is, what does your body or your heart want? So, maybe we shouldn't do water. Maybe we do a cookie. Let's do a cookie. My brain says yes. My body, do I want a cookie? My body's like, nah. So when I'm listening to my body, I make my brain be quiet and scan my body for feelings of lightness or heaviness, either a feeling of wanting to move forward or a feeling of wanting to move backward. Resistance and a no will often feel like shrinking or a backwards motion, or even internally, just a sensory feeling of recoil. And then a yes feels like expansion, excitement, swelling, anything like that. When I'm listening to my body, that's what I do. When I'm listening to my heart, I bring my attention to my heart area. And then you can also, if you want another sensory input, just take your own pulse. Heart rate variability would be the sciencey word for checking whether your heart wants it or not. And so putting just paying attention to your pulse and thinking about something that you want and seeing if your pulse rate regulates, slows. If you struggle with feeling your own heartbeat, you can put your hand on your heart. But it's the same idea. You can either feel for increase in your pulse or decrease in your pulse, or relaxation of your pulse, the constriction of your pulse, or you can think about those things as it pertains to your heart. Do I want a cookie? My heart wants chocolate. My head is like, okay, that'd be cool. My body's like, chocolate. So no cookie, just chocolate. Once you start doing it a lot, you'll start to notice you can communicate with those three different nervous systems. Maybe that's super hard for you. It depends on how their nervous system is wired as to whether they struggle with that or not. But a lot of people struggle with this. So don't get bogged down. I just want you to use this as a thought experiment. If this does not feed you or feel good for you, leave it behind. So let's talk about when I feel resistance, like I did with the cookie. My body was like, no cookie. And I'm gonna sit with it for a minute and be like, okay, what would sound good? And then my body's like, chocolate. And, we don't want sugar, we want chocolate. When we have resistance to something that is difficult, sometimes if we just reduce the amount for the cookie, maybe I could have been like, okay, do you want a half a cookie? Do you want a quarter of a cookie? And then my body was like, no, no quarter, no half, just chocolate chips. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's an answer. So being able to say, okay, if it's a no, we need to just do a little more fact finding. We need to figure out what the resistance is. And a cookie is like a stupid thing. It could be a relationship. And I feel like people often relate to this example a little bit better when you think about a relationship you may or may not want to be in, because your brain might be like, this is a great match on paper, but your heart says yes, but then your body's like, I'm not attracted to them. Well, then that's a friendship. If you have a brain connection to somebody and a heart connection to somebody, but you don't have a body connection with somebody, then you want to be friends with them. Does that make sense? We actually do use this as a way of relating. I think the relationship idea tends to work for people, but this can be applied to anything like food, herbs, all the things. When we're thinking about using herbs, we can do the full body yes after we've experienced plants. What's neat about plants is they are so pharmacologically complex. Our nervous systems will learn how plants make us feel and what they do for us. The more plants you get exposed to, the more you can pull those out as tools in your toolkit to help you when you're struggling. And so you can actually use the full body yes to decide what herbs you need once you have taken enough plants. So what herbs can do for our nervous system is, I'm just going to read this because it's real heady and I'll summarize it after I read it. But this was like written very well from my brain. So I'm just going to read it. We can literally and figuratively learn new ways of being through initiating different brain states and altering neural and physiological chemistry with botanicals. So that means we can learn new states of being through plants. If a person has never experienced safety inside of a romantic relationship, they might be able to experience safety inside the feeling of love created by ingesting Damiana. Once a person can recognize a nervous system state because the plant has helped them find it, they can figure out how to make that happen for themselves. And then, kind of like poisonous or toxic thoughts, you may not ever know that you're being toxic in your own head unless you can experience how maybe someone else speaks to themselves in their own head. Once you open the door, this is why reading books is so important, because it teaches us different ways of being that are options for us when we're only in our own mind. It's all subjective. This phenomenon of using herbs to create altered neural states, altered physiological states, is not unlike the concept of mirror neurons. This is how babies learn to speak and walk. When my daughter was little, I would look at her and speak very clearly so she could watch my mouth move. When she was really learning how to talk, she would be, struggling with a word, and I'd be like, "Hey, watch my mouth." And then I would say the word and she would say it back. Little kids have a lot of mirror neurons that teach them how to move through the world. They're watching you and their body is really responding they're just mimicking everything. We have mirror neurons where our brains and nervous systems mimic really precise movements and ways of doing things. We can learn through watching. And this is why we have concepts of memes, which are like contagious thought concepts. We can see these parallels in the physiological principle of co-regulation, where we're hanging out with a person, they have a calmer nervous system than we do. Our bodies can feel that and we can learn how to regulate just by being near a person that is calmer and has a calm nervous system. And it's the same way we can get dysregulated when we're around certain types of nervous system states. Either way, plants can do this for us. They can be our co-regulation partner, the subject of our mirror neuron mimicry. They can act as our stable base. They can be the meme we catch. And I think that that's such an interesting and helpful way to think about plants, especially nervous system plants. Let's talk about burnout and exhaustion of the body. Exhaustion of the body. So the important components of this: sleep, exercise and movement, musculoskeletal tension, digestive bitters. It's its own category. Nutrients. So let's talk about sleep. Everybody always knows we need to talk about sleep. We all need more of it. It's very important for you to track your sleep. We can change our behavior just by monitoring our behavior. If you start tracking whether you're sleeping well or not, you're priming yourself for being able to address sleep issues. Highly recommend tracking. Male body people need around 6 to 8 hours a night on average of sleep. Female body people need between 8 and 10 hours a night of sleep. Children and teens need access to 10 to 11 hours a night on average. Raise your hand if you're not getting that much sleep. It's just like a random unnamed hand. Okay, great. I think it's super common for folks to not get enough sleep. People with autoimmune diseases need 9 to 11 hours on average. Lack of sleep causes all sorts of problems: fatigue, increased craving for sweets, stress, tension, irritability, chronic inflammation, increased pain, and histamine issues. I learned a long time ago if I get really bad sleep, I'll take an anti inflammatory, which is boswellia or boswellic acid, as a replacement for an NSAID. Then I'll use an antihistamine because I'll have histamine flares when I don't sleep well. And so using anti-inflammatory like boswellic acid and an antihistamine like holy basil, if I get less than 6 hours of sleep, really help me get through the day if I don't have access to a nap. That's just one of my life hacks. Write that down. Thank me later. Burnout and exhaustion of the body. So common issues of chronic sleep, common causes of chronic sleep issues. Sleep apnea, super common. This is another great reason to just track your sleep. Taping your mouth shut and using nasal passage expanders. You can also go see an airway specialist. If you're having trouble with this, I highly recommend falling into a rabbit hole on TikTok of myofascial issues, mouth taping, nasal passage expanders, mouth stretching, mewing is a whole thing. Look up mewing. It was invented by a guy whose last name is Mew. It's a huge area of research and incredibly helpful. There's a book called Breathe that talks a lot about mouth breathing and how a lot of people don't have enough room in their palate, jaw, and nose to breathe properly. So just sometimes people will just get an expander, a retainer, and it expands their palate and gives them enough room to sleep. I am a chronic poor sleeper. Valerian and passion flower is a great combination. Valerian sometimes in 10% of the population will it be excitatory. If you take valerian and it makes you angry, you're not weird. That's 10% of the population. So try valerian. If it doesn't work for you, then it's just not for you. Passion flower works on GABA, which is a calming neurotransmitter. Kava and blue vervain are for stick-necked overachievers with facial tics and twitches. If you've got musculoskeletal pain, 478 breathing is one of my favorite tricks. Honestly, the thing that works the best. 478 breathing plus emulating REM or mimicking REM eye movement. I started doing this years ago, but I just trace my eyes back and forth to mimic REM sleep and do 478 breathing at the same time. And it gives me too much to think about, and I don't think about anything else. I have found imagining swimming or jumping or flying and making it really fun and beautiful, I'll fall asleep super quickly. So using your imagine because the space where we dream and imagine is very close in our brain to sleep. I have been a chronic bad sleeper, and the thing that gets me to sleep almost every single night is imagination when I have had even years of sleep problems. So try the imagination thing trick, but think about like peaceful thing, the sensory experience of bouncing or sleep or swimming or flying. Blood sugar issues really common with sleep problems. Focus on your protein intake and sugar intake. Decrease your sugars at night. Increase the amount of complex carbs that you're having with dinner. Things like pizza and pasta notoriously will cause people to wake up at like 2 or 3. Try high intensity intermittent interval training. Histamine issues will cause sleep problems. I don't love Benadryl, but using it as a diagnostic tool 1 or 2 times to figure out whether, like, if you can't sleep and you never can sleep, try Benadryl. And if you can sleep with Benadryl on board, but nothing else works, you can try loratadine if you're scared of the Benadryl or don't want to do Benadryl. But if you take those and they work, then it's amazing to use that and work on histamine issues use Benadryl and loratadine to diagnose whether you have mast cell problems or histamine sensitivity issues for sleep. Hormonal insomnia, this one's also very much linked to histamine issues because we have a lot of people will have excitatory histamine responses during PMS. Try progesterone creams, magnesium B6, red clover, and hops. I am not opposed to over-the-counter antihistamine. Sometimes people have to take them. I have to take them. Based on stress-based insomnia, ashwagandha and skullcap, among other plants for nervous system regulation and adaptogens. So things like linden, skullcap is a fresh tincture, ashwagandha, milky oats are all for burnout and helping with stress in order to help you be less stressed during the day so that you can sleep better at night. Musculoskeletal tension. There's nothing like not moving around during the holidays where you're eating more, sitting more, not moving your body. Raise your hand anonymously in the chat if you felt a little stagnant from not moving from the holidays. So, we all know that exercise is good for us, but sometimes we forget that you really cannot manage tension and stress without movement. When we're stressed, we get in fight, flight, freeze, or appease. When nothing stressful has happened, we just are chronically low grade stressed, and that tends to stagnate as a freeze or appease reaction. And because we're self controlled, when we're irritated, we're mad, we mobilize it in our body, but we don't get it out. We don't exercise it out. We can end up with a lot of physical tension. And so we need to finish that stress cycle every day by moving our bodies. When you're super stressed out and you get a lot of neck tension, shaking it off, moving your body, doing some neck exercises, going for a run. We have to finish that stress cycle every day by moving our bodies to help off gas. When you're angry, punching a pillow or throwing a pillow down, using your large muscle groups. We've just started at our house. If everybody's just angsty and grouchy, we just play wrestle. Toss it out. My daughter loves it. She'll look at me and be like, "It's a wrestle game, mommy." And I'm like, "Rock on, kid." I'll get her leg and pretend I'm eating corn. It's really good. It's the best. You have to off gas stress physically with movement or massage. And if you do that, then the herbs will work better. My favorite thing to do is if I have a real bad tension headache, I'll take a bunch of musculoskeletal relaxing herbs, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Go take a swim, get a massage, do some yoga, and then generally I'm good. But if I just take the herbs and expect my tension to go away, I have done nothing to support my body in its stress response. Leah says, can Benadryl cause drowsiness for some people even if they don't have histamine issues? Yeah, Benadryl is like, it's for sleep for sure. But if people are taking other types of sleep medications or herbs and nothing is working to help them go to sleep and they want to try loratadine, then it's a really great diagnostic technique to see if an antihistamine that's non-drowsy helps you go to sleep. You're good to go. Benadryl sometimes is just for breakthrough. Like you can take Benadryl and loratadine at the same time. But I don't want to get super deep into histamine problems and like H1 and H2 and H3 and H4 and all of the histamine receptor types and all that stuff. Because I could, but I'm not doing that right now. Thank you for your good question though. Herbs play a really important role in relaxing musculoskeletal tension, but there's really no shortcut to taking care of your body. Let's talk about my top 2 herbs for musculoskeletal tension. Well, yeah. Actually, what's funny is both of these herbs, if you look them up on the internet, they'll be like, they'll hurt you, they'll poison you, bad. Your cough is really bad for your liver. You'll die if you take too much lobelia. But that isn't true. It is an alkaloidal plant. It has lobeline in it. Lobeline is the primary chemical constituent that's really medicinally active. Lobeline, the INE at the backside of it indicates that it's an alkaloid, much like nicotine or caffeine, theobromine. These are all alkaloidal components and they work on the nervous system. Very commonly, alkaloidal plants work on their nervous system. Lobeline specifically is a acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, and it will work. What's really nice about the alkaloidal plants is they absorb through the skin really easily and readily. Tobacco will absorb through the skin, which is why you can smoke a cigarette, put a chaw in, and it works. And I know it's kind of gross. Maybe I'm from the South, so people do that still sometimes. But lobelia is a stimulating relaxant. So it's stimulating to blood flow. It helps relax your capillaries. It helps relax your diaphragm. It helps deepen your breath. And it is wonderful it gives you this kind of frontal head warmth and relaxation. And it also is relaxing to your smooth and skeletal muscles. I'll use it for diaphragmatic tension. I'll use it for PTSD flares. I'll use it for people trying to stop smoking because nicotine is a stimulating relaxant and people are just self-treating. It's absolutely wonderful. You can use it topically or internally. It is a low dose botanical, but I've taken like 2 to 3 droppers full before and been completely fine. If you take too much lobelia, you will throw up. Do not take it in a tea form. Use it in a tincture. You can use it as a tincture topically or use it as a tincture internally. Generally, an internal dose, 5 to 20 drops will be completely sufficient for you to notice. And then if you have neck tension or tension somewhere where you have a spasm, you would use it, on that muscle group, topically. One of my favorites. Kava. Sometimes if I have real bad tension headaches, I'll dump 2 ounces of kava in the bath and just lay there with my mouth sticking out like this, with my whole head underwater. Treat with kava afterwards, or treat with lobelia afterwards. Polynesian root used in ceremonies to support people in resolving conflict amicably. If there's a disagreement, 2 people would sit down, drink a bunch of kava, and then have a conversation. It behaves similarly to a benzodiazepine. You should not use it with benzos at the same time. It's great for treating anxiety, stress, and tension. I love it as an alcohol replacement at parties. I don't have I have histamine problems, so I can't drink alcohol. And I learned that at a young age. It just does not go well with my body. So I would just bring kava tea to parties and people would make fun of me, but it works great. And it's lovely for anxiety and social tension. It just gives you a warm, fuzzy, like I love everybody kind of wine drunk feeling. It's in my standard mocktail recipe. I use kava, mimosa, and blue vervain very commonly at night to help relax. And we're going to talk a little bit about mocktails. Digestive bitters. Digestive bitters are the single most important thing I think every American could add to their diet that would help their digestion and their mood and their blood sugar and chronic metabolic syndrome. Bitter in general is so important for helping support our digestive system in general, our liver, our gallbladder, helps with regulating blood sugar, helps with changing our perception of sweet tastes. It helps with decreasing how much sugar you actually want to eat. It changes the way that we perceive sweet flavors. It helps with overeating and undereating, and can also really help when you get the stomach flu. They're a great way to soothe upset stomachs. I keep them in my bag constantly. Gentian, cinnamon, bitter orange, yellow dock, yellow root. There are a lot of bitters, and you can mix and match and see which ones you like best. It's a great idea to just add bitters to your diet right before every meal. Just have a little digestive bitter. A small glass of water before them, after meals, and during times of indulgence can be super helpful. Let's talk about nutrient dense herbs and food. We cannot function properly without minerals and vitamins that we need, and it really is difficult to maintain a diet high in nutrients in the modern world. I'm just going to pause for a couple questions. Digestive bitters, you can just buy them online. Just type in digestive bitters. I like Urban Moonshine is a great company that's kind of specializes in bitters. What kind of dosage do you recommend for bitters? About 2 droppers full 3 times a day. If you're having the most bitter plants in the world, like andrographis and wormwood, you can just use 2 drops. Do you consider intestinal tension or spasms like musculoskeletal tension? Intestinal tension and spasms are for sorry, intestinal issues are smooth muscle, like intestinal cramping, and so you're gonna pick different herbs sometimes. But kava will still work on that. It helps a lot with UTIs where that, like, the bladder's kind of, like, spasming and it's uncomfortable. I'll answer more questions at the end too, and put your really deep burning questions in the Q&A. I'll try to get to them at the end. I lean on vitamins, green powders, mineral rich broths, and teas to bridge dietary gaps in clients in my own life. People love to get on the internet and say that vitamins don't work and they don't help, but I would not be here on this planet if there were not nutrient supplementation through diet, through vitamins. I take a handful of vitamins every day to feel good. And I am so grateful for them. And I have had so many people clinically benefit from good supplementation. And that's because I'm trained in how to supplement people and I know what forms of nutrients are good for you. And that is really important. Certain supplements can be really bad for you if you don't know what you're doing. But I am not in the camp of like all vitamins are a quack and they don't work, because that is not my personal or clinical experience. But in addition to that, using herbs as a way to get increased nutrient density in your diet and mineral density in your diet is super important. My favorite combination is my Mighty Minty mineral tea. It's a dense tea full of nutrient dense plants: alfalfa, marshmallow, horsetail, red raspberry leaf, plantain, dandelion, and peppermint. Since I have since taken the cilantro out for issues with heavy metal toxicity in cilantro, and also weird stuff going on with some of the research that happened around cilantro. So cilantro is not as great at heavy metal detoxification as people think. There's some nuance to it. I've since taken that out. I just hadn't taken it out on this slide. Sorry. Bone broth booster. This is a great addition to your bone broth to make it more nutritive and nutrient dense. While you're cooking your bones, you can cook your herbs, horsetail, nettle, parsley, chickweed, dandelion, woodier mushrooms, or any mushrooms, burdock root, kudzu root, and wild onion are all some of my favorite plants to add to bone broth. Burnout and exhaustion of the mind. We can't forget that our body and mind are very connected, and sleep and exercise play an integral role in how we're feeling mentally. Here's some things that might come up for us mentally. We might be bored. We might need more mental stimulation. We might need less mental stimulation, a sensory break. If we've got a busy mind or too many thoughts, maybe meditation or mindful doing would be a good option. Are we hormonal? You can try hops, red clover, or progesterone as options. Also, if you're feeling kind of roided out, like aggressive, when testosterone spikes at ovulation, sometimes people can have symptoms of just more angry, more ragey. That is really helped by spearmint. Spearmint tea upregulates testosterone excretion. Your brain might be feeling lonely, so you could snuggle your pets or close family or friends. If you're angry, you could try exercise, especially pushing exercises or recruiting large muscle groups, which goes into what we were talking about earlier. If you're tired, you need to sleep. You can also try non-sleep deep rest, NSDR. You can find some videos about that on the internet. After the holidays, you might need more solitude, time with people that feel peaceful to you. You might need more movement and simple foods. You might be feeling bored while you're working less. These are some of my favorite plants for burnout of the mind. Passion flower is a beautiful plant. And I always ask myself, how could something so loud and wild be so peaceful? She's very wildly herself, couldn't hide if she wanted to. And whenever I look at passion flower, I'm always reminded of the Mary Oliver poem, where Mary Oliver says, "Let the soft animal of your body love what it loves." When we talked about this in the beginning, sometimes incongruencies in our nervous system, our heart, our mind, and our body is so much the crux of our problems. I think passion flower really helps us to align with that idea that we are ourselves and we can be as much or as little of anything that we want to be. When I'm using passion flower, I'm using this with people who they're feeling wired and tired, or they're having circular thoughts. Maybe they're feeling a bit intense. They have a difficulty with ruminating, or feeling keyed up and wound up and anxious. Works on the GABAergic pathways. Which is a calming neurotransmitter. 20 to 60 drops two to three times a day, or just as needed. Really specifically, people that tend to have tight neck and shoulders, people that find themselves in nervous system states that resemble intensity and fanaticism. If you get really intense, they're often dictatorial or overly rigid with high expectations of perfection for themselves and others. Their mental rigidity causes physical tension, but also tension in general, like in their personal lives, in how they're moving through the world. It is not flowing, is forced. Blue Meridian teaches us to be more productive in a gentle space with a more relaxed pace, balancing to-dos and our relationship with ourselves and others. It helps us make time for play, curiosity, cuddles, and fun while being a boss. 1 to 40 drops will do it. Do not drink this as a tea. It will make you throw up if you drink too much. Skullcap is amazing for helping our nervous system with resiliency over time. It's for people that are frazzled, have frazzled nerves. If they describe themselves as feeling at the end of their rope and they have difficulty concentrating, they're just exhausted and wired and tired, light and sound sensitive. This is super helpful. Works best when used fresh. Fresh plants made into a tincture immediately. When dried, it's more sedating and indicated for sleep. When it's fresh, it's more of a nerve tonic. You can use it in breastfeeding and pregnancy. Dosage 10 to 40 drops 3 to 5 times a day. This is a great to have in your back pocket. Burnout and exhaustion of the heart. Often the holidays are just hard. I don't know if any of you guys have tricky family relationships, but we're often, maybe grieving the family we don't have, not being truly seen by the family we do have, or grieving family or relationships we've lost. I know we had a particularly interesting transitional year a couple years ago where my grandmother passed and my parents had divorced and I had divorced all in the same year. I think I'd had my daughter and then my parents divorced and then my grandmother had passed. And it was just like we didn't even know what to do for the holidays without my grandmother. Being around lovely people who see you is so important if you have spent any time with people who do not see you. It can be really disorienting when your perception of self does not align with the perception that other people have of you, especially if they're family. Just be gentle with yourself and try not to isolate. If you don't immediately have access to someone that helps you feel grounded and loved and seen, then you can do a loving kindness meditation and really kind of help tide yourself over until you have that need met. Also, spending time doing service things for other people is a great way to get out and meet new people, but also expand your heart energy. Hawthorn is one of my favorite plants for this. It's amazing. My write up on Hawthorn just disappeared. I will fix this and add it in when y'all get sent the slides. Hawthorn is amazing for grief. It is a cardiotonic when we see heartbreak causing heart palpitations. We can use this when we're having issues with boundaries and people don't have good enough boundaries with their loved ones. We can use Hawthorn to help them learn that inside their nervous system. I use hawthorn for cardiovascular issues that do not have an emotional component to them, just straight up high blood pressure or heart palpitations or just cardiovascular problems in general are always benefited from hawthorn. It's an amazing plant. And then another plant that I love is mimosa, and it is strongly serotonergic, so you don't need to use it with SSRIs. I often utilize it for grief, loss, and depression with a focus on those that become bitter, jaded, and emotionally stuck. It is such a lovely plant for inspiring joy and play. To be fair, this bitter, jaded, emotionally stuck state is such a common state for people as modern humans because we are so deeply disconnected from nature and each other. If someone's really struggling to connect with others or themselves and they're angry and irritable, mimosa is amazing. It does have a numbing effect. I find that the flower is incredibly it makes you feel very like esoteric. It's very like you take it and you just feel sort of transported to a fairy version of yourself. It's very playful and spacey. I took it one time and I was writing about it. I took flour, got in the car, and I was supposed to drive to my storage unit, and I was thinking about going to the post office and how I need to do that later in the day, and I ended up at the post office. Using a combination of the flowers and the bark half and half 50-50 is really nice and balancing, and I find it's really nice for self-deprecating folks, for people who are just beating themselves up constantly, and it's really nice to help kinda disrupt that pattern of self-deprecation, especially when you're not able to do the things that will bring you happiness due to beating yourself up. It helps you stop finding discomfort, stop thinking through and trying to make sense of your emotions. It just helps you feel them so that you can pass through them easily. It's great for emotional constipation. I just love mimosa. I love it. Okay, let's talk about rituals as anchors. If you just pick one thing that you heard that you were like, that is juicy, I want to try that, and then anchor it as a part of your day. Anchor it in a ritual of the day. So if you decided bitters was a thing, make you 4 bottles of bitters, put one in your purse, one in your car, one by your kitchen table. And every time you eat, you're going to take a bitter before you eat. There are just so many ways to do rituals that help anchor your day and incorporate herbs into your day. A digestive bitter ritual, you could do a tea ritual where you're picking different herbs. I have a cute, like a tea drawer that has just small amounts of single teas. And so I can go in that tea drawer and make the tea based on how I feel in that moment. And I can make myself, it's one of my favorite ways to incorporate herbs into my life on a daily basis that feels really lovely because in the morning I can make a tea for energizing my day and getting me going and maybe a little peppermint and Maybe I, didn't sleep well, so maybe I need a little bit of a boost, or it's my period, I'm a little crampy. I can just make myself a tea based on my symptoms for that moment. And then later that night, I can do the same thing again for helping me relax and prep for sleep. Having these two tea rituals anchored into my day helps me treat my own body, listen to my own body in the morning, have a pause and listen to my own body and the evening, and it's just so lovely. I also will go in and out of making mocktails. I have just a row of nervines, so it'll be like blue vervain, lemon balm, motherwort, mimosa, cava, and I go, the ones that I love and use a lot, and I just have them lined up, put them into a glass. That's what's in the picture of me muddling holy basil, putting a lime with holy basil, some soda water, and a bunch of tincture. Super easy peasy. So by now, I hope that you have seen that herbal medicine is credible. It is enduring. It has been around for hundreds of thousands of years. It's an empowering form of healthcare, one that's accessible and viable for you to utilize every day. We need the knowledge to use herbs properly. They're powerful and they're not one size fits all miracle cures. If anybody's telling you that, herbs are for everything and this plant will cure, or this herb it can be used by anyone. Run away. Herbs offer great benefits and they're backed by traditional use, but also an increasing amount of science. And really crucially, as we talked a lot about before, they complement herbal medicines complement modern medicine and they don't compete with it. From this webinar, I hope you get that it's really important to make your own medicine and to lean into this year. It connects you to your roots, it gives you agency, and it lets you use modern systems and modern life and modern scientific advances at the same time as using herbs. And our healthcare system can feel really impersonal, but making herbs is a deeply personal act. It's a way of caring for yourself, your family, and your community. It builds resiliency, reduces anxiety, and it decreases your dependence on an overburdened system. It's also more affordable and sustainable in the long run. It's a great feeling to know that I made a formula and it helps me, and that never gets old. If this resonates with you and you would like to take another next step in reclaiming your own primary care, I've put 17 years of my experience into an in-depth course to learn advanced medicine making. I really lean into a supportive, mentorship heavy, hands on environment in which people learn this. I know that I have some of my students in this class right now. Please, in the chat, let people know how you feel about the course. Registration is open now. Last year, I did not do a live launch of the advanced medicine making course. This year, we are doing a live launch. That means you get somewhere between 45 and 56 hours of me talking to you one-on-one like this. You're going to be in a small cohort. We have limited spots in the course. You can check out this QR code if you want to see the course and what we're offering. There's 12 modules. You're going to learn how to make over 20 types of herbal preparations. There's 3 binders full of material, and you also get a really great community with this. We meet twice a month. We also meet once a week for question and answer time. So the twice a month are to go over course material in addition to you already like doing the written course material, your assignments and the modules you're working through on the videos. I really want to highlight what makes us different in this course than other courses. And we have 12 modules, 45 videos, and 900 pages of printable course material. That's more modules, more videos, and more course material than all of the top online herb schools. I made a chart of all of the top herb schools and how many videos they had and how many modules and how much material. And we topped 90% of them. Only one school had more videos than we did. What makes us stand out? Most top herb schools do not have a live component or a live component of their program, and they also don't offer formulation or medicine making and a little bit of clinical assessment inside their medicine making course. I offer 8 to 9 hours of access to me per month live, and throughout the course, that means 48 to 54 total hours of access to me for mentorship. We also do case studies and formulation in our program, which is different. The other thing that's really different is I have time tested, mother approved 100 clinical formulas for my 15 years of clinical practice. So you get a recipe book of 140 recipes. Those are clinical formulations from practice. It's basically an additional book. You get herb labs, every single module for hands on integration. We also cover body systems, materia medica, and advanced preparations, not just basic tinctures, which is not common in most herbal programs. Things like percolations and double extracts. Use some quotes from previous students. I love this course. Cameron taught me how to forage plants, make my own medicine, use many herbs, and the knowledge of how to research any new herb. She gave me the confidence I needed to take the next step in herbalism. On a personal note, she's also kind, funny, and an amazing human. If you can, take this course. I want to read this particular one. After 3 decades of education, this is Lindsay Smith. This is the nicest thing I think anybody's ever said to me. After 3 decades of education, I have rarely come across a course as well structured and thoughtfully crafted as this one. It seamlessly blends theory and practical application, making the learning process immersive, inspiring, and immediately useful. Cameron has an exceptional talent for bringing together a diverse group of individuals, fostering a sense of empathy and excitement within the class. Lindsay's a teacher and has been through a lot of education. Carly said, I can't recommend this class enough. It's an incredible learning experience. Cameron is an amazing teacher. She has so much knowledge, and her sense of humor makes learning a fun process. Take this class and feel empowered with herbal knowledge and have a great time. Fantastic course. You get 200 hours of instruction on video and then 54 hours of mentorship. You're going to know how to make 20 different types of herbal preparations when you're done. When you're finished, you're going to have your own apothecary that you will have made with your course material. Every single module, you will have an herb lab, which you do, and you can do those and get your certification at the end of the course. You get 800 pages of bonuses. We have the PDF copy of the Wild Wellness Foraging Journal, a medicine making formulary journal, the digital herbal formulary, purchasing herbs locally resource, and a bunch of different herbal masterclasses that I've recorded over the years. There's over 950 pages of course material, plus the added 800 pages of bonuses because I don't do anything small. So you could wake up brewing a personal herbal tea blend that uplifts your day, or walk through the woods knowing exactly which plants can become tonight's remedy. Imagine feeling empowered and self-sufficient and able to care for common issues naturally, and know when to handle things at home and when to call the doctor. That's what my course really aims to get you to, that place of rooted confidence and practical skill set. As a thank you for joining us today, you are the first people to have access to the course. This link is live today. You're going to get a coupon code for Reboot 100. Will give you an additional $100 off of the course. Your early bird pricing is $300 off the course, and we're going to be running that for the next week. You guys are going to get $100 extra off using the code REBOOT in the next 24 hours if you register for the course. I really hope that you will join me in reclaiming your own primary care and join the 2026 Advanced Medicine Making course. I really hope you guys will join me and take advantage of the coupon code. The link is in the chat for you to head over and check out all the tidbits you need for the course. You can also do the QR code for you to just be taken there on your phone. The course is 6 months. Go ahead and pop in the chat if you have questions about the course material or the course in general. I would love it if you did the course, Jessica. I think that herbal medicine can be kind of dry. And if you're not having fun, there's so much research on having a good time while learning really solidifies your learning. And one of the things that I try to lean into hard is having fun and being just pumped. I'm so excited to be with you guys, teaching, learning from you, and sharing information. If your teachers aren't pumped to be teaching you, then you're not going to be learning as much. I think the other thing that's really important for me is making sure that I'm available for mentorship. That's another thing that I think is super helpful and important. All right, let's get to the cues. All right, I got to find the questions. Y'all don't forget, The $100 off coupon only lasts for 24 hours. Lots of people were in the Q&A because we couldn't get the chat to work. Let's see. When using herbal approach, is it supposed to get rid or shorten the duration of being sick, or does the infection still have to run its course? It seems over-the-counter approach offers immediate results. So, Eva, great question. There are many ways that using herbs can go wrong. I'm just going to highlight those real quick so that you know what to look for next time. You can be doing the wrong herb for the issue or the wrong herb for the person. You can be using the wrong dosage, so like not enough. You can also be using it in the wrong way. So the application, how you're administering it. And dosage is often a real common one that people don't do correctly. This is a whole topic, and I cover this in depth in the course. We talk about dosing, how to know whether a plant is a first, second, third, or fourth degree remedy, and then how to dose those remedies accordingly. First degree remedy are food-based herbs, so they're easy to, you can have as many of them as you want. Second degree remedies are spice-based. They tend to be more strong, but we like them. Still, we just want them in small amounts. Like a small amount of cinnamon tastes good, a large amount of tastes bad. Third degree remedies are herbs that taste like medicine and they're strong. You taste them, you're like, yuck. Fourth degree are low dose botanicals or pharmaceutical grade herbs, and they will kill you in large doses or are really bad for you. Those are not what I would recommend most people in this webinar using. Second and third degree remedies are going to be something that you're going to be using when you are super sick. First degree, kind of like food based, like nutrient dense. So when you're using lower degree plants, you can dose them more frequently. When you're really sick, it's not uncommon to need to take a plant, a couple droppers full every hour. And there's nothing wrong with using herbs in that way, just like 1 cup of tea per day. But when you're ill, you need to be, knocking a lot of herb back. It also depends on the type of infection or the issues you're having. You can use a neti pot rinse for sinus infections is a common example that I'll give of somebody using correct application. If you're treating a sinus infection with a tea that's going into your gut and has to go through your digestive system, circulation, through first pass liver metabolism, and then finally to the area that's affected, then you're doing it wrong. Like if you have a systemic infection, like you have a fever and your whole body is responding, using a tea is more appropriate. But if you just have a sinus infection and it's all localized to your sinus tissue, then using a neti pot is the way to go. The application or the dosage will not be quite right. So I hope that helps. Is there any way that I can save this live for future reference? You will be getting the slides and the support, deeper support will put in the chat what that will look like as far as long-term access. That's a back end thing. What did you say about Botswana? Boswellia. Boswellia is frankincense. It's a chemical constituent in frankincense. Boswellia is also the first name of frankincense, the botanical name, Boswellia serrata. There are a lot of different varieties. Boswellia is frankincense. Boswellia is a resin. You can extract boswellic acid from resins. We cover this in the medicine making course. It's an advanced preparation that we do. Pulling boswellia from or purifying resins, but pulling boswellia out of the resin is makes boswellic acid. Boswellic acid is an NSAID replacement. It's less hard in your guts than a regular NSAID. But yeah. Rachel asked, is the discount only on the full payment or can you get it in the payment plans? The discount is on the payment plans as well. What is the next webinar? That's a great question. I don't know. We are having a live Q&A session in a couple weeks, so that might help. Are you considering into? Yeah, we answered that. Can the next webinar be way more plant identification? Sure, I can do. Actually, we do have a Foraging 101 class coming up in a couple months, like March. It'll be in March, Foraging 101. Whether I do a lot of plant identification, I'll probably do some small amount of botanical identification and how to learn how to identify plants. And I'm happy to teach more on that. I will make a note. I use swamp vervain with similar results as blue, and that's what grows all around me. Billy, what's the botanical name on that one? How do we keep an herb on hand fresh? Dried I get, but how do I keep skullcap fresh? So let me clarify. When we're making skullcap fresh and we're using skullcap fresh, plant we're making an extract with that plant fresh. A lot of times we'll dry a plant material and then make tincture from it. When I say we want a plant fresh and we want to make medicine from it fresh, I'm going to pull the plant out of the ground, bring it inside, immediately process it into tincture. And then that's what I mean with the skullcap. You can also it's not uncommon for me with certain plants, like jewelweed does not work very well in other preparations other than fresh. So I'll blend it up into ice cubes and freeze them rather than deal with the fact that it doesn't work very well fresh. Aloe is another good one. I'm curious if there are any rules that can help you know which part of the plant holds the medicine. I realize it's probably different for every plant and what medicine you're looking at. Yeah, completely different for every plant. Sometimes color can be an indicator. Like with St. John's wort, when you rub it between your fingers, you'll get a red color, and that is one of the primary chemical constituents in St. John's wort is the red pigment, and you'll see that extracted also in oil. But I've also used other varieties of St. John's wort that do not have the red pigment in it and do not have the primary chemical constituent. They work great for pain. When you send the slides, can you add some of the tea mixes you mentioned and what to use them for specifically? I don't remember what tea mixes I mentioned. Sorry. Maybe you can put in the chat some of the things you remember. Other dates for the Deep Roots conference yet? So the Southeastern Foraging Conference is the question. Carly, can you grab the link for the Southeastern Foraging Conference and put it in the chat? We have the dates. The presenters and courses are still being updated, but it's the end of March. March 26th through the 29th is what we have listed for the Southeastern Foraging Conference. If anybody's interested, you can go ahead and get your tickets. If you can't make your own herbs, do you have certain brands you'd recommend? I love Herbalist and Alchemist. That is Dave Winston's company. I love Eclectic. School of Herbal Medicine has Eclectic Botanica. They're also amazing. What if you're not an advanced herbalist? Is the class still appropriate for me? Yes. This course is beneficial to anyone. The course is specifically made to educate people who are beginners to intermediate. I would say even advanced people that haven't had formal training will get a lot out of the class because there's nothing like formal education to get you to competency. If you're studying on your own, you're always piecemealing. If you have somebody very knowledgeable tell you what you need to know from 17 years worth of experience, is like a totally different ballgame because I have so much context for what's important and what isn't. And that is one of the things I think is the most valuable. Like AI can't give you that. I wasn't a practitioner for 10 years, and I can give you so much context and help highlight the things that are most important and know what the context should be for certain herbal uses and certain therapeutic interventions that you just can't get from piecemeal studying. It's deeply important to have a mentor help guide you in your learning experience once you get to a certain level, if you want to get to a certain level. I'm keen on your course, but my session is opposite to yours. It's released in parts. You get access to one module every 2 weeks, and we have a course meetup. We meet every Friday for 1 hour. If you're behind, you can just come for those Q&A sessions. Those are not as structured. We do 30-minute on the Tuesday sessions. We do 30 minutes Q&A, 30 minutes course, 30 minutes case study. Maypop be used the same way as passion flower? Maypop is the common name for passion flower. I would be careful about botanical names, but you may be talking about something else. But if the flower is similar, then it's the same and can be used interchangeably. A lot of passion flowers are interchangeable in use. Do you have brand recommendations to purchase quality tinctures? We went over that. When's the next monthly plant walk? I think it's going to be, I'm looking at my calendar again. I think we do one in March. Yeah, March is the first one, the 8th of March. So we have payment plans. We actually have pretty sweet payment plans. So early bird pricing is $900 in full or $1,000 total with the payment plans, and then an extra $100 off today with the webinar code. Normally the price is $1,200, the payment plan with the discount, and it's really affordable every month. If you need additional options for payment plans, we're flexible. We can make you a payment plan that'll work for you. How many hours can I expect to put in each week? Actually, can some of my students who have already done the course speak to that? I don't take my own course. Dory's saying the online classroom is very easy to navigate. Dory, could you speak to how many hours we're just gonna say a B plus to C minus student would spend on your course material? Dory is very type A, so we'll get an answer from her in the chat in a minute. How many hours? We spend 2 hours every 2 weeks together in the live. Every Friday's an hour, so that's 4 hours of possible live time every 2 weeks. Those are all optional. If you don't have time to come to those and they don't work for you, then it's fine. A lot of people will listen to them while they're driving at their own time. And then the course material is probably an hour to 3 hours a week would be my guess. Is the curriculum in person or online, set times and days, or work at your own pace? This program is a hybrid program. It is hybrid, work at your own pace. I call it self-paced but structured. We are all trying to stay together for accountability and support. We are trying to complete one module every 2 weeks. The meetups are to help you stay on track a little bit and try to keep towards that goals. I think it helps people to get the gumption and to stay with the pack, to complete the course. And that's my primary thing. I really want you guys to enroll and then use the course, learn the material, it stick with you well. And I use a lot of learning science to make sure that you're getting repetitive spaced exposure to the same materials in different ways so that you can integrate the material so that you leave the program having felt like, wow, that was a good use of my time and money. And like the other thing that I talk to people about, like not having to go to the doctor and being able to reduce my healthcare costs when my insurance was going to be $200 more a month. And I was just like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I didn't even sweat it. I wasn't, like, freaked out. I was like, "Oh, well, like, I'll f I don't I don't use it that much." I know I'm young and that's a privilege, but I have not been the healthiest person in my life despite trying. If I had not taken care of myself, I would be at the doctor all the time. Investing in this course is it's going to save you an insane amount of money. Even if you're just wanting to make your own medicine so you're not having to buy tinctures. $20 for a tincture is insane. I couldn't afford that. So, being able to make your own medicine out of weeds out of your yard for $5 an alcohol in a bottle is like it's incredibly cost. I can't even begin to tell you how much less I spend on healthcare. I probably spend at least four to $5,000 less on healthcare a year from doing herbs, and probably way more. I know it's really hard for everybody right now financially, but if you can like $100 a month, $100 a month is great. I think it ends up being even less than that once you've done the coupon. But that's a really low amount of money to pay to save 4,000 or $5,000 a month for the rest of your life. It pays for itself immediately. Outside of the herbs, are there any additional expenses and tools we would need? Yes, I give you two options. Easy order Amazon one-click lists that I've made on Amazon that you can go through and purchase your course material. I try to keep it very minimal. You do not need to buy a whole bunch of stuff. Most of the time people end up printing is ends up being kind of a main cost for them. If you have your own printer, it's going to be a good thing. Printed in black and white, the course material. The printing was a lot. The herbs you're gonna use, like, I pick herbs in the course, and I try to support you in using your spice cabinet rather than going out and buying all of these plants. So, do you offer any referral codes? A friend referred me and wondered if there's a way to give her credit. I'm gonna defer to Deep Root support for that one. That's a logistics thing. Maybe in the chat. Dory said, I wish I could share a photo of my course material printed out. There's 3 binders for the course material. A lot of that is integration material and exercises like your labs. How do you know what tinctures and oil infusions need dark, warm places versus dark, cool places? All plant extracts need to be stored permanently in cool, dark places. If you are infusing them and making the medicine, that will sometimes need to be warmed in order to increase solubility and the viscosity of the fluid to get better extraction. Let's see. Do we need to improve in order to prove we have done them, as this might be hard for me to do due to this season difference? The way that we handle our like proving that you've done your course material, you have to complete every module, turn in all of your course material, scan it, and I read through all of it. And when you're doing your herb labs, you have to complete the lab and then do a journaling exercise after it. You won't be able to complete the lab and answer the questions I'm asking you unless you can't fake it. I'll be like, how was the, how's the experience? Tell me about it. And what was it like? Do you offer any of the materials printed for purchase? I don't right now. That is not something we are able to do right now. I would love to do that in the future, perhaps. Thank you guys so much for coming. I know that my students have been in and out of the chat sharing some experiences with you guys. I have so enjoyed teaching this class. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Dory said that the course material is 7 binders that you will use for the rest of your life. I would love to see you in the course. I hope you take advantage of your 24-hour $100 extra off coupon, Herbal Reboot. Please join me for another webinar in the future. If you can't join a class with me, continue to utilize our free resources, free classes, and free content. Take from this webinar one herb or intervention we talked about. I would love to have you and see you in the future at future webinars, future classes. And I'm just so grateful that you guys decided to spend your Sunday afternoon with me. Thank you so much. And I'm really honored that you guys all are here. Thanks. I hope to see you again soon. Bye, everybody. Good night.